Jerusalem Defender, Jerusalem as a human right of the Jewish people, plus a discussion of peace plans, why they haven't worked, and the best alternatives available. Shalom, welcome. Good to have you back. So we're going to discuss a method that we could have some long-term peace in Israel and in the territories, and especially with President Donald Trump returning to office soon, we're going to have a new opportunity. Just as we had an opportunity in his first administration to have the establishment of the Abraham Accords, I think we're going to have a new opportunity towards a peace plan that is more viable than anything in the past. So, as some of you may or may not know, if any followers of my blog, my Jerusalem Defender blog, thank God I got 3 blogs, but my oldest blog is Jerusalem Defender, and that is a blog started about 17 years ago. And in that blog, God blessed me to discuss, create the Everyone Wins Peace Plan. In Hebrew, that's Tachnit Shalom Kulam Marvichim. So the Everyone Wins Peace Plan is a one-state solution. And the key factor is, the idea was that how am I going to create a peace plan? Because, all the other peace plans are not working. So how do I create a peace plan that's going to work? And I'm not just, like when everyone has the same philosophy, so that concept is called group think. Everyone's thinking in the same singular mindset. So also, individual has a group think on an individualistic basis. So in other words, how do I avoid the trap of group think, even because I assume, it's my plan, and maybe that's the best plan, right? That's a natural reaction of someone coming up with an idea. However, what I figured was, you know what? We already have a intel on what the future will be. That's the prophets of Israel. So if I were to first see what God's word talks about, the future, and then, like with a maze puzzle, work myself backwards from there, I figured I could find the whether or not this is the best solution. It's something that is viable. It is, so it would have to be politically pragmatic, but also viable from a prophetic perspective, considering the prophecies of the prophets of Israel. For example, in the book of Ezekiel, the Temple Mount has to be a part of Israel. So now, let me actually quote a verse about that. Okay, let's go to Ezekiel chapter 43. I'm going to check this out on Chabad.org. They have a nice Tanakh online. Okay, so in verse 7, and he said to me, Son of man, this is the place of my throne, and this is the place of the soles of my feet, where I shall dwell in the midst of the children of Israel forever. Okay, so forever, here's an idea. What if forever means forever? I thought, hey, maybe it's forever. So therefore, any peace plan that rejects the idea of Israel holding on to the Temple Mount is not going to work, right? So therefore, I knew, and now I was coming up with this plan during the Bush administration, and it was also during the Olmert administration in Israel. So Olmert was trying to give away East Jerusalem, so that includes the Temple Mount, basically. Again, the Temple Mount itself is the holiest place in Judaism. It's a misnomer to describe the Wailing Wall as the holiest place in Judaism. That's just the holiest place currently accessible, without uh, without ramifications. The Israeli army has been ordered to help enforce the rulings of the Waqf. Now, the Temple Mount, it it's no big deal to get it back, legally speaking, because to give up territory there has to be, uh, this is under the rules of cession and succession in international law, but there has to be a, a deal made between the prime minister or president or leader of the country, and the other leader of the country. But in the case of the passing of authority from Israel in 1967 to the Jordanian Waqf, uh, that was done through the defense minister. So that was not a legally binding transaction from the laws of treaties. So therefore, it's politically it's an open book. If necessary, a one-state solution, including the Temple Mount, is plausible from an international legal perspective. Okay, now, so and then in Ezekiel 48, if you really have to go through the whole chapter, uh, it's recommended reading. But chapter 48 of Ezekiel, it becomes obvious the entire Judea and Samaria, also called the West Bank, must be a part of the Israel of tomorrow. Otherwise, you don't get all of the promised blessings, including world peace. Now, it just so happens, I mean, part of the reason may be something like, God knew there would be danger if Israel were to give up Judea and Samaria. Maybe. Of course, God knew. But the thing is this: besides that idea, is that this is the part of the responsibility of the Mamleches Kohanim, kingdom of priests. So this is essential to the Jewish belief. When Jews in anywhere in the world, they always turn towards Jerusalem, towards the Temple Mount, to offer their prayers 3 times a day, 4 times a day on the Sabbath, 5 times a day on Yom Kippur. So it's all directed towards Jerusalem, and by Jerusalem we mean the Temple Mount. You understand? So that's intrinsic. So now, okay, so we know we need to have that. So, like in the 90s, at first I was said, well, maybe Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, the spiritual founding rabbi behind the Shas party in Israel, maybe he was right. That you could give up Gaza because it wasn't mentioned here in Ezekiel 48. And if you look at what Rabbi Ovadia Yosef said, he was only talking about Gaza. He was not talking about Judea and Samaria. He never said that, even though Shas was working with Labor Party, etc. at first in the 1990s. Rabbi Ovadia Yosef never intended to give up Judea and Samaria. If you look at his writings and how he eventually withdrew his support for the Oslo Accords because they were not being implemented in a way that made it possible for there to be peace according to the prophecies that God gave us. Now, this is the thing. So therefore, I figured the only way to make a better peace plan than Oslo is to do it differently. In addition, another problem of Oslo, I read a comment by Yossi Beilin, the author of the Oslo Accords, and he did not have a end game in sight. He figured to create a process. That's what he would try to establish, and thereby, once Israel establishes a process, it could eventually lead to a peaceful accord. So he did not know what the finished product would completely look like when he started the Oslo Accords. and unfortunately, it's no surprise that it had unforeseen consequences, because the consequences were never attempted to be foreseen. But again, with the amazing intel Israel has accessible to it through the Bible, that we know what the future is going to be like. So we just follow the Word of God, and guess what? We're going to have the world peace God promised. It's as simple as that. It's not, it's in the category, right? If you want to have the blessings of the Sabbath day, so keep it holy. If you want to have the blessings of world peace, so don't give away land that you need for world peace. It's pretty simple. Okay. Second aspect of it, and this is in an essay I wrote about it. I wrote about this one. It's called, the essay is One State Solution Only Possible with Filtration of Terror. So this is Sunday, February 20th, 2022. Now, I've been talking about filtration of terror for many years now. At one time, I had an article published in Israel National News, Ored Sheva. Anyway, so here's my blog. Again, you can search on my Jerusalem Defender blog for One State Solution Only Possible with Filtration of Terror, dated February 20, 2022. Allow me to read this to you. A one-state solution is the only plausible peaceful resolution to land dispute in Israel. The two-state solution is proven as perpetuation of conflict. Many have relabeled the one-state solution as a kind of large melting pot of unity. Such could not work in the Middle East, where it would result in sleeper cells of terror. Rather, the choice is as before, to support a democratic state or build a terror state in the future. Only by enhancing Israel, by adding lawful Arabs, can a version of peace find traction. But terrorists cannot be invited to join the united Israel of tomorrow. We need filtration of terror to separate the good people from terrorists. It's I'm not. I'm going to continue the article, but it's not about. It's not according to a person's race or political party. It's according to a person's philosophy. Do they want to be a builder of civilization or a destroyer of civilization? So in either case, we have to be able to tell the difference. If a person wants to be a destroyer of civilization, maybe don't give them strategic footholds in your land. But if a person wants to be a co-builder of civilization, so then what do we call people when we're trying to recruit someone to join our business? We call them human resources, value in the form of a human. So in other words, people are valuable. Humans are valuable. Arabs are valuable if they are human. But if they want to be a terrorist, if they want to have the philosophy of destroying God's beautiful world and people therein, so then they're not being the wonderful humans that God made them to be. If they want to be the wonderful human that God made them, so then they're a human resource. They would be a valuable asset to Israel. Israel should consider it a blessing to add more Arabs to the country. But again, the key is in the filtration. Now, when I first came up with the Everyone Wins Peace Plan over 15 years ago, I was getting feedback that, but if you have all the Arabs naturalize into Israel, so then you're going to have, they're going to dilute the population until Israel can no longer vote for their own prime minister. But I mentioned that in that time, we could have a staggered, slow process where, people naturalize slowly according to the incoming aliyah. As a requisite amount of aliyah comes in, so then we would have more Arabs naturalized until an equal amount was raised, and therefore the voting demographic, there would be no change in the percentage of and ratios of Jew-Arab votes in Israel, right? So such concerns would have been uh, pushed aside from the perspective of choosing a slower process. Now, unfortunately, but we could make the best of it and say perhaps fortunately, uh, this is not such a big concern because unfortunately, so many people in under Palestinian self rule have chosen the side of terrorists. So therefore, we're talking about a smaller pool of potential recruits to join Israel. So I mean, there's lots of good people there. We could save them from terrorist leaders, and uh, a natural human who's not terroristic is an asset, a human resource. So let me continue the article from February of 2022. Okay, although I've written about this numerous times, starting when heaven guided me to compose the Everyone Wins peace plan since the days of the Bush administration, I will refresh the topic. The definition of a one state solution uh, is the greatest impediment to support for this. No critics of this plan have sustained their opposition once they understood what I'm saying. This matter requires precise understanding. The current narrative out there risks redefining what a workable one state solution can be. But the only true path is still the same. Key concepts in the Everyone Wins peace plan: filtration of terror, uh, filtration of terrorists out from the pool of naturalization applicants. No relocating of masses of innocent people. This means no good person has to give up their homes, neither Jews nor Arabs. Yeah, the you so in other words, you neither have the horrors we saw when the Jews were evacuated from Gush Katif, nor do we have the concern of cries of ethnic cleansing simply by moving people to a different area. Uh, Nobody has to give up their homes, but they have to embrace civilization. That's the only caveat. Uh, then qualifying Palestinian Arabs slowly but surely become complete Israelis without overwhelming the Israeli economy, infrastructure, nor electoral balance. And then the fourth major point: the multi-ethnic IDF retains complete control. And then here I mentioned the two philosophic legs that Everyone Wins stands on is that one, peace is guaranteed in the future by God Himself. And by working oneself backward from the prophecies of the future, most paths to peace are revealed as flawed. And we're going to analyze that, God willing, in a few minutes. God's holy word is the best possible source of intel, and I took the Torah seriously when forming a suggested plan to peace. Okay, that's the first thing. Peace is guaranteed. Have hope after all the violence. It's hard to have hope, but just look at the Bible and have renewed hope. Number two, all humans are made in God's image and have the potential for holiness. Terrorists reject that to the point of a perpetual threat of bloodshed and cannot be members of society. In other words, it's also dangerous for society to consider them as members of society, to try to equate them to members of society. By doing that, so now it's like you have one bottle of healthy water and one bottle of poisoned water, and they're in the exact same type of bottles, and somebody threw them into a sack, and then they close their eyes, picked out one bottle, and hand you a bottle to drink. Until you know who are the good people from the bad people, how could you drink either bottle? So, until that, how can Israel make peace with any kind of Palestinian Arab unity joining with Israel? And so, in other words, we have to filter out the terror. So remove terrorists from any group of humans, and you only have a highly valuable pool of human resources. Arabs are good. Terrorists are not. Remove terrorists, and only productive potential citizens remain. When the philosophy of diverse people is unified, then there can be peace. The philosophy must be based on an end to terror, for civilization to be enhanced, to be a united state of civilization builders. May it soon be so by the grace of God. Okay, so that's the meat and potatoes of my February 20th, 2022 blog post, JerusalemDefender.blogspot.com. Okay, now, next I wanted to discuss the criteria necessary to bring peace. So I made up a peace plan comparison chart, taking, you know, about 8 other plans that have been discussed in media, popular, or have attempted to be implemented, and I compared it with the Everyone Wins peace plan. Now, there's meat and potatoes of the mechanics of how Everyone Wins could be implemented, how you would evaluate potential applicants, to who would get past the filtration and become eligible for naturalization. That's all discussed on my blog, Jerusalem Defender. But here I just want to focus on the big picture. How does Everyone Wins compare to the other peace plans we keep hearing about, and why is it they have failed? Again, these two simple philosophic differences is that, one, some of the plans may not view Arabs as people you can share a state with. You have to push them out to another country, so there has to be 2 states. So one, is being overly negative towards Arabs, even the good ones, and 2, well, overly negative towards God's word. I mean, Israel is back in the Holy Land, like right after the Holocaust. I mean, this is a sign that the word of God is coming true. Okay, there are several prophecies about Israel being returned, not being utterly despised. Leviticus 26. Maybe we should quote that. I'll ask my producer Brad if we could go to Leviticus 26, verse 42. And I will remember my covenant with Jacob, also my covenant with Isaac, also my covenant with Abraham I will remember, and I will remember the land. For the land will be bereft of them, appeasing its sabbaticals when it had been desolate of them, and they will gain appeasement for their iniquity. This is all in retribution for their having despised my ordinances, and in retribution for their having rejected my statutes. But despite all this, when they are in the land of their enemies, I will not despise them, nor will I reject them to annihilate them, thereby breaking my covenant with them, for I am the Lord their God. So remember, despite the horrors of the Holocaust, by the grace of God, 2/3 of the Jewish people survived the Holocaust, even when there's such a great Nazi war machine trying to annihilate us. So God was protecting us even during the Holocaust. Verse 45, I will remember for them the covenant made with the ancestors whom I took out of the land of Egypt before the eyes of the nations, to be a God to them. I am the Lord. These are the statutes, the ordinances, and the laws that the Lord gave between himself and the children of Israel on Mount Sinai by the hand of Moses. Okay, so God's saying that in the end of days, after they're having the height of their sufferings, this chapter discusses other aspects of that as well. But at that point, God won't utterly reject them, so God will save them. Right. So, not being utterly rejected is a good thing, and it would be nice if we can do that to the good Palestinians as well. If just emulate the walk in the ways of God, and try to uh, share a nice society Israel has with the nice people among the Palestinian Arabs. That would be a nice thing. So again, peace is guaranteed, and all humans are made in God's image. So there's hope for everyone. But again, it only applies to humans. When people become inhumane, eventually they become, for the categorization of applicants for naturalization, they cannot be considered a potential member of society. Unfortunately, their freely chosen evil deeds require that we ostracize them from the blessings we would otherwise share. Okay, so now let's bring up the peace plan comparison chart, Brad. Okay, so in this chart, okay, so I'm going to read from one of my blog posts describing this. Brad, let's keep this picture up while I'm going to also read from my April 25th, 2020, April 25th, 2010 article. So if you go halfway down for those reading along. So this is the 5 criteria for peace. First, I'll describe what these criteria are, and then I'll discuss all these other peace plans. You could also check out the chart yourself. Picture can be worth 1,000 words. Peace criterion 1. Is it a peace plan strong against terror? So I was doing a comparison. By guaranteeing full control of Jerusalem, Netanyahu's plan is much better than Omar's. The long-term security of Jerusalem's population is vastly improved. Yet by creating zones of Arabic self-rule in the territories under the current climate is invariably creating cities of refuge for terror. No offense to the Prime Minister. Even if technically a right to invade at will against terror exists in a signed treaty as per the current Likud party platform. Again, writing this in 2010. The Western sensibilities against segregationist activity would be exploited to perpetuate anti-Israel media onslaught every time Israel tried to defend itself under such a plan, and likely fuel continued outrage by supporters of the PLO worldwide, who would feel like they lost if the Netanyahu plan was initiated, and they would likely encourage the Palestinians to try to prove that they did not. But again, even his plan could not be fully implemented even till today. So, but again, as a former adjunct professor of political science, my expertise is in theoretical concepts and constructs. So I'm saying at a theoretical level, the theoretical plan of Netanyahu doesn't meet the test to bring lasting peace in as far as being strong enough against terror. Again, this is a snapshot back in the year 2010, but once we go through all of these criteria, you're going to see, and we're going to discuss other peace plans as well, not just Netanyahu's variation. And again, in the chart, only Everyone Wins fulfills all of these 6 criteria correctly. All right, so continuing in my article from April 2010. Let's see, where we leave off. Try to. Okay. All right. So now is the criterion met? Does Netanyahu's conception of a peace plan, as articulated back in 2010, make it considered strong enough against terror, at least according to my evaluation? So my answer to that was questionable. Questionable. And if you look And in my peace plan comparison chart under by Netanyahu, the word questionable is in the chart there as well. Okay. Yes. Okay. So the best resolution to this is if there are no alternative zones, but a single democratic nation of Jews, Arabs, Bedouins, Druze, and the like, just as those beyond the Green Line already enjoy. Anyone who would then speak of jihad would subsequently not be viewed by the foreign press as freedom fighters fighting oppression, but as alien interlopers who are trying to interfere with a good thing, the betterment of the unified state of Israel. So, again, the problem is, in addition to separating Israel by trying to uphold the Green Line standards and trying to maintain the construct of pursuing a two-state solution, is you are not only dividing Israel from potential, problems, you are guaranteeing the innocent people among the territories are going to be trapped with despotic leaders. Why are you automatically guaranteeing that the innocent people are going to suffer? Because the bad guys are bullies, so they're going to rise to power, whether people like it or not. In a society where there's no filtration of terror, no justice against practitioners of bloodshed. So, by creating a two-state solution, you are, in other words, establishing a strengthening and a foothold of terroristic activity in whatever kind of Palestinian state there's going to be, if there would be. But I think the ship has kind of sailed on that conception. I don't think it's possible to have a two-state solution. Again, it was more theoretical, perhaps in some people's minds, 15 years ago when I was talking about this stuff. But I think it's kind of obvious now, especially after October 7th, 2023. So a unified state of Israel removes the entire conception of terrorists as freedom fighters, because we want all the good people are joining Israel, and we know who the good people are, and the only people not joining Israel are the people who are rejecting Israel and rejecting peace with Israel and rejecting humane treatment of other humans, babies, women, elderly. So therefore, in today's situation, we already know if a person doesn't want to have peace with Israel, they got a problem. If you want peace with Israel, make peace with Israel. Now, again, because of this Israel's current legal situation, as far as the land in west of the River Jordan, Israel is basically the governor, and they've appointed the Palestinian Authority as a sub-governor. United Nations wants a peace deal to be ratified, but again, and even Donald Trump himself said previously, whether it's a two-state solution or one-state solution, either one could work, to paraphrase. So this is how a one-state solution can work, by separating from terrorists, but not the good people. We want them to join us. Okay, so now let's go to peace criterion 2. Enhances Arabic civil rights. Okay, so yeah. So now the complication, right? If Arabs are people too, so now you got to treat them nice, right? But again, Israel, looking within Green Line Israel, Arabs are having the best lifestyle of any Arab in except for a few rich emirs. They're having the best lifestyle of any Arab in the Middle East. The Arabs within Green Line Israel. So it would be great to also have that shared with other good Arabs who are also in west of the River Jordan. That would be a wonderful thing. So again, as I discussed previously, not really going deeply into the filtration concept today, but just the idea is that with a filter of terror, um, you don't have the security risk by adding people. Again, it's like a knee-jerk reaction after 30 years of Oslo Accords, or whatever, 50 years of belligerence, since uh, Yom Kippur War, etc. So it's just a knee-jerk reaction to think, oh, adding Arabs is adding terror. No, it's filtration of terror can work. How do we know this? One of the metaphors in my blog, if you could filter someone to trust to give them a credit card, right? Why can't you uh, assess people's capacity for risk and be more careful with them? If if someone comes to your bank to take a loan, and they don't have the best credit, they may still get the loan, but they'll have to have a cosigner, right? So even if a person doesn't have the best credit, it doesn't mean they're automatically rejected. It's just they have a higher bar of bringing a cosigner and stuff like that. So, uh, you know, again, it could be proven if it's done methodically, but with a good intention and um, so the heart has to be good-hearted, the nature of it, but the mind has to be alert, to be very cautious, right? No more risk to Israeli civilians, whether it's a Jew or Arab alike. Everyone should have peace, especially the only country that's really talking about peace here. But individual Arabs amongst the Palestinian Arabs, uh, outside of the Green Line, would be talking about peace more if they were interviewed. But they're not being interviewed. They're and who knows how many people are willing to speak freely, with people willing to kill people for even dressing wrong. So it's a really difficult situation for Palestinian Arabs right now outside of the Green Line. So, but if there's good people there, why not save a few roses from the thorn bush, right? Remember, uh, our mutual forefather Abraham tried to save people from condemned wicked cities. So, if that's your attitude towards, um, you know, the PLO controlled lands, as people are saying. So, nevertheless, it's possible to find the roses among the thorn bush. If even remember, Abraham didn't stop until he said, if there's even 10 people who are righteous, please don't destroy the city, and God agreed. So, do you think it's possible we could find 10 righteous people among the Palestinians? If so, it's certainly worth it to make an effort to filtering out the terrorists and giving people a chance to naturalize into Israel. Okay, so unlike its policy towards Jews, Bedouins, and Druze, the roadmap to peace is edited by Netanyahu, plans to give whole cities exclusively to Arabs. No other race. Jews would have to move out or never settle. Jewish settlements will not be allowed to be only for Jews, but will be expected to become more egalitarian within the new Green Line. This is, again, a snapshot from 2010. I hope Bibi has learned a few lessons since then, and he's, you know, whether or not he's perfect, he certainly has some very good traits, and it's very possible that his previous attitudes towards the peace plan may eventually coincide with the prophecies of Ezekiel, for example. Well, there's hope. Um, so, but Arabs under the Oslo Accords, the roadmap to peace, and current Obama and Netanyahu policy have the right to be racist if they so choose. Regardless, getting cities of your own is always a good thing. So, from the perspective of Arabs in the territories, the Netanyahu plan is essentially a good thing, even though their leaders do not want it. So, in other words, even though it's not as good from a security perspective to go with establishing the Oslo Accords, etc. If it had worked, that's one thing. But the leaders of the Palestinians didn't want it to succeed. You know. So, all right, going to this peace criterion 3. Does it secure non-Arabic civil rights? The roadmap, as edited by Netanyahu, plans to give whole cities to Arabs, unlike its policy towards Jews, Bedouin, and Druze. Perhaps not fair, but neither is it a certain uprooting of civil rights for those who don't currently live in those Arab cities. Long term, however, other races should be allowed to move into Arab cities if they want to. But that is not a pressing debate in the short term. Again, back during the Netanyahu-Obama days. So the criterion met, questionable. Netanyahu, the former finance minister, is apparently viewing the problem in economic terms. There must be a winner and a loser. It's as if he is suggesting, let the Arabs win here so we get security. Whereas I say, let everyone win. Everyone wins peace plan. Okay, going on to the next criteria, peace criterion number 4. Does the peace plan not threaten Israeli infrastructure? So Netanyahu's plan may or may not, by creating zones that are outside of IDF jurisdiction, except under police hot pursuit, you're creating a framework that will inhibit intelligence gathering, and reasonably could lead to severe danger to Israeli infrastructure. However, by not moving major populations such as Ariel's Jews or Hebron's Arabs, the Netanyahu roadmap avoids a major economic crash that would have followed such a purist interpretation of the roadmap to peace. Criterion met, questionable. So the roadmap to peace would have been, unedited by Netanyahu, would have been much worse. It would have, I felt, caused a financial crash because again, roadmap to peace was built on the on the bones of Oslo, and Oslo was built without an end game. So it's just like good money after bad. The whole foundation was not going to lead to good things. You have to keep pouring money into it just to sustain it. It's kind of like at first the Egyptian peace with Israel. It was really only because America was constantly bribing Egypt to remain in peace with Israel. So it was cheaper than going to war, but it's still, you should be able to negotiate that without constantly pouring wealth into it. Israel, I would hope he wouldn't need, for example, American financial support at this level once there's peace, right? So they don't need to buy as many, tanks and submarines, etc. Right. I don't have an affinity for peace plans that require billions of dollars being poured into them from other countries constantly. So, in a situation where there's a financial crisis in the donor countries, so then there would be war again. What kind of secure and lasting peace is that? So again, as far as not threaten Israeli infrastructure, that's the edited roadmap under Netanyahu was questionable. Peace criterion 5, retain societal integrity. Everyone keeps their homes, both Jews and Arabs. Currently, plans are in 2010 are to close to close small satellite settlements. That was in the spirit of Gush Katif. but none of the major ones or those near them. That means Jews are still to be made homeless under the edits by Netanyahu to the roadmap. Just not as many Jews. That is little solace and a failure of this criterion test. So is the criterion met? No, there's not a retention of societal integrity. If you make mini gush katifs, you're still punishing the innocent. And at the heart of Everyone Wins is trying to save the rose from the thorn bush. Whatever their national origin or gender or race or anything. That's not the thing. Are they innocent of terror? Are they civilization builders? Then they're precious roses among the thorns. We have to try to save them. So by saying that small settlements of Jews can be removed, that was, in my opinion, just plain wrong. So that goes against the retained societal integrity criterion. Then peace criterion number 6 enhances interracial equality and harmony. So if you look at that, almost every peace plan does not, that people have tried. So people look at it and they say, well, how could the biblical dream of world peace be so easy to achieve, right? So now let's do a quick discussion of the difference between two of the plans. So of the two plans besides Everyone Wins, if you look at, let's go to the right-hand column, long-term chance of success if implemented. Yeah. So there's only three plans besides Everyone Wins out of the list of the 8 other plans plus Everyone Wins that reach a level of 58% or greater chance of success. Okay, so so that includes Rabbi Benny Alon's Jordan is Palestine, Danny Danon's variation of the Netanyahu variation, and Caroline Glick, former Jerusalem Post editor's peace plan. So of the Netanyahu plan and of the Benny Alon plan, of the Danny Danon plan, and of the Caroline Glick plan, I liked Caroline's plan the best as far as enhancing interracial equality of harmony. But at best, and hers is the only one that really addressed this, but at best it's a questionable discussion if it can. Whereas Everyone Wins peace plan of Rabbi Professor Friedlander. So that one, it does allow 100% chance of equality and harmony, because it's just taking out the troublemakers. It's removing the bad apples. Everybody else stays in the fruit basket in a good way. So okay. All right. So that's that's at the heart of it. So, but as far as Netanyahu's plan, as suggested during the Obama administration, my take on it was that creating cities that are void of Jews in the land of Israel is not the ideal method to achieve this. So, is the criterion met? No. So, so then I gave a rating. What then would the long-term chance of success, if implemented, of the Netanyahu in the Obama era plan, that version of Netanyahu's plan? Hopefully, Hopefully he completely agrees with everyone wins, or a plan like it. Uh, but in back in the day in 2010, so better than Omer's path, certainly. Better than the Saudi pseudo peace plan, without question. But in its current form of 2010, Netanyahu's plan appears less than 50% probable that its viability will stand the test of time. Long-term viability for peace is most likely when societal healing occurs and as many causes of long-term hatreds and outrages are minimized or eliminated to the best of our ability. That is what the Everyone Wins peace plan is founded upon. By integrating Everyone Wins peace plan into their platform for peace, the administration can find an optimum avenue towards lasting conflict resolution between the Palestinian Arabs and Israel by the grace of God. Okay. So, and that's Everyone Wins peace plan in a nutshell. Again, there's more details to be discussed if necessary, but people contact me and we can discuss it further if necessary. But perhaps my producer Brad would like to join us now. Welcome to the podcast, Brad.
Hello, how are you, Rabbi?
Hi. Feel at mic and camera. I would say feel at home, but I'm not sure if being on a podcast is homely. But okay. So anyway, how do you feel today?
I'm good.
Okay. So any insights or questions you wanted to ask about this? You've seen this uh, peace plan comparison chart before. Anything you wanted to add or question before we prepare to call it a session?
No, I'm not familiar with a lot of the different peace plans. I know a BB's peace plan just because it's, relevant to what I've been keeping up with lately. But the rest of them, this is all new information because I've never really studied any of the other peace talks or plans. But
Okay. So,
it does seem to me one of the important points you brought up is is this only works if people truly seek peace with Israel.
right.
You can't come to the table and not seek peace with Israel and expect peace. And that's
Exactly.
that seems to be the most important concept people seem to lose. I mean, at the end of the day, it seems to me that if you don't want peace with Israel, then why are you coming to the table? What's your agenda? And then two, if there's land inside Israel that Jews can't keep their home, then how is that peace? In other words, if there's parts of the land that are only set aside for a certain race or certain sect of people, they don't seem like peace.
Right.
If you're going to coexist in Israel, then you'd have to have peace with Israel and understand that, whatever is established,
Right.
and
So
go from there and seek peace.
it shouldn't be that it's like you're going to visiting a park on the wrong side of the tracks. You should be able to go to
Right.
anywhere
Yeah,
in the
exactly.
country without fear of being beaten up or something. If
Right.
you don't have to order plexiglass windows for your automobile to drive through a random village. I mean, that's to me, it doesn't make any sense
Right.
whatsoever.
Right.
And again, it's simple. You just try to implement God's vision of the future, which, by the way, He already told us in several different prophecies, is world peace. So by doing the things that lead us to world peace, even if a person isn't fully religious in any other category, when it comes to peace, pursue the paths to peace that we have the greatest intel, the prophets of Israel, telling us to go on. And so there's
Right.
among the peace plans, besides Everyone Wins, there is one peace plan that fits into biblical prophecy the best. Besides Everyone Wins. Now, in the method, the teaching methodology of the yeshiva of Hillel, of Talmudic fame, so they would first quote the opposing opinion before they give their own opinion. and I already discussed it in blog posts in the past, but I'll just mention here, since we actually mentioned verses from the Bible. Also, the Jordan is Palestine, or as I describe it here as Rabbi Alon plan, uh, is would work according to Bible principles better than all the other plans, or except for where everyone wins. Everyone wins, and Jordan is Palestine both equally fulfill the biblical prophecy. The problem, though, with Jordan is Palestine, um, is it's not as easy on the Arabs have to relocate, right? One of the things I didn't like is from Gush Katif, we see it's not good for anyone to be forced out of their homes. So once we establish the idea there's good Arabs, so why would I want them to be kicked out of their homes? If I'm trying to be a good person, I don't want good Arabs to lose their homes either. How does that make me a good person? Unless I'm, there's no hypocrisy, and I don't want Jews or Arabs to be kicked out of their homes, right? So that's the problem with the Benny Loans plan. But from a biblical perspective, it's efficient. It immediately opens up the Judea and Samaria and Temple Mount. Don't have any negotiations, etc. But again, as I discussed in my blog over the past 17 years, international law allows for God is the director of world history, so international law does allow the prophecy of Israel to occur, especially in all of the legal things that have occurred in the past 60 years in the Holy Land. So it's just it's right that you could set things up without having to discriminate against Arabs. You could do it via the Everyone Wins Peace Plan. I guess the most egalitarian one-state solution there is. But again, as far as efficiency to achieve the prophecies of Israel, especially the ones like in Ezekiel that we've discussed. So there's an efficiency we find in Rabbi Alon's plan, the Jordan is Palestine plan. I admit that, but first of all, it's not as pleasant for everyone involved, and secondly, uh, it is not as pragmatic from the perspective of now you're relying on the Jordanian government, which already feels like they have too many Palestinians, accepting masses of people to move there. So now you're putting the control of the peace plan out of the hands of Israel into the hands of their neighbor who already said no. So that's why I worked to come up with the Everyone Wins Peace plan, because of these problems with the Jordan is Palestine plan. But again, if God forbid there had been a worse war, if for example Jordan had joined again with their neighbors, like in the 6 Day War, and the Yom Kippur War, all these neighbors attacking Israel at the same time, and in because there were ground troops involved, in a sense it was worse than we've seen in the past year with all the rockets coming from 7 different countries. That wasn't as severe as the Yom Kippur War, where you had tanks rolling in, from different angles. So if Jordan had joined with an Arab country to attack the territory of Israel, so I would say that Jordan is Palestine would be the peace plan to go with. They asked for it, just unload the unload the problem already, But in a sense, I'm happy. First of all, that there's peace. Secondly, that Jordan decided to choose peace and not, or at least a angsty form of peace. At least they're not being belligerent actively. And then third, it's good for the good Palestinians to have a chance to join a great country like Israel and not have to be shipped around, to different parts of the region, to only to be controlled by a new despot somewhere else. Okay, so, but as far as if I was going to ask or suggest to an Arab to move out of Israel, which Middle Eastern country should they move to? Unless they have $1 billion, like they can move, $1 billion, you can move to Saudi Arabia or UAE or whatever. But if they don't have $1 billion, Jordan sounds pretty good because they do have a form of like a quasi republic where they have a a body of government that discusses the people's concerns before they take it to the ruler. So it's not just a pure autocratic rule. There is deliberation of people's concerns. So that's a good part of the Jordanian government. So it's not the worst place compared to most countries in the Middle East. Jordan is one of the better countries as far as a political place for Arabs to go to. But it's not as good as Israel. So Israel is better for the Arabs. Not losing one's home is better for anyone. And pragmatically, it seems like a hard sell to say that Jordan is going to agree to having millions of more people come in when they feel overcrowded already. So for these reasons, came up with the Everyone Wins plan, a plan where it follows God's lead on where a peace plan should go. Again, from a perspective, so does Rabbi Benny Alone's plan. You notice two rabbis coming up with peace plans, and they go according to God's will. But I think that based on the pragmatic realities, we have an opportunity to save a few roses among the thorns if we go with my methodology over Rabbi Alone's methodology. But it's all inspired by God. So whether it's this plan or another plan, we just have to consider these factors and try to do what's best for everyone. But it starts with looking at people according to the concept, are they civilization builders or not? And stop treating terrorists like they are. Stop treating terrorists like they deserve rights of a regular human being, because their only desire is to have strategic foothold to kill people. And that's not in the interest of any society that believes in law and order. Right? And of course, there's the whole institution of international law depends on law and order. And now, the laws of treaties are greater than the laws of customary law. For example, if a country criticizes Israel on the floor of the United Nations, that's the customary law of that nation. They're trying, and they pass a resolution, and unless the Security Council is involved, it's merely just like a recommendation. If the Security Council is involved, so then it's more like a customary law. But what's higher than customary law in international law is the law of treaties. So even though there's been decrees that make it hard, that want Israel to fit in, a square peg in a round hole. So once there's a treaty agreed by both sides, that will be more legally urgent and relevant. And I think someone like President Donald Trump can sell that as being an acceptable peace plan, and it'll find acceptance. Even if some countries at first, say, well, what's the point of having United Nations if we can't criticize Israel? So, but I think it'll work pragmatically speaking. And thank God, God is wonderful, and we have the potential to be wonderful too. So let's hold out for the good in everyone, but that only works if there's law and order and justice and mercy. That's only possible by empowering the merciful to join society and help us build it greater. And that's only possible by depowering the cruel and not allowing them to be treated as equals with the innocent and with the productive civilization builders, human resources. So All right, so that's the gist of these ideas behind uh, the everyone wins peace plan. Okay, and if you have any other questions, you're welcome to write me. Uh, my email is available on the blog, jerusalemdefender.blogspot.com, and we could discuss it further. Okay. All right, looking forward to hearing from you, and everyone have a wonderful time. And don't worry, God is going to redeem the world. It's guaranteed. So having a peace plan that fits into God's plan means that maybe it's going to happen, right? So from that perspective, either Rabbi Lone's plan or my kind of plan are the ways to go. And I think my kind of plan is more pragmatic under the circumstance. If, however, both Jordan and the good Palestinians like the idea of moving Palestinians to Jordan, so then that would be even more efficient. But who wants to give up their homes? And once you take this slander of the PLO out of the equation, guess what? A lot of Arabs are pretty happy to be in Israel. Okay, so let's consider these matters and ask our leaders to make the right choices in the coming days, weeks, months, years, etc. All right, God bless. Thanks for listening. Bye. Be well. Shalom.
Appreciate it.